Hello YouTube, this is Salam. In this video I'm going to show you how I maintain my 21 years old four-wheeler. This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any work you do it at your own risk. I hope you will enjoy this video. My four-wheeler starts acting up. There's an issue with the carburetor. This valve over here, it's leaking fuel too. So I'm going to do some maintenance to it. I also going to put a new cover on the seat. And I'll show you the whole process. This was easy to pull off because the hose broke over here. So I just pull it up and remove the tank. Now I'm going to wash it so I could work on it cleanly. torque converter is 21 years old. This is the first time I opened the case to inspect it. Still in excellent shape. The belt is still good and everything seems to be in decent shape. I will take a break and give it a couple hours to dry. After that, I'm going to replace the carburetor, drain the oil, replace the oil filter, flush the coolant, replace the spark plug, fix the fuel tank, replace the valve, the one that's leaking, and inspect this one over here, the fuel filter, blow it with air. I like to clean the engine or anything mechanical before I work on them for multiple reasons. One, you prevent contaminant to get inside the engine, and then when you work on it, you stay clean. You don't get dirty and covered in oil and mud. Also, if you accidentally cut yourself, this way you have minimum chance of get infection because everything clean. You just clean the wound and you're good to go. I decided to dismantle the torque converter and clean it up and lubricate it. This over here pulled off easy. There's nothing hold it in place. The cover will keep it in place, the outside cover. And then I removed this. There was 4 screws over here, keep it in place. There's O-ring that goes here. This is 22 millimeter nut. There's the strings. When the engine spins faster, they will go outside and they will force this against this part over here, and that will expand the belt so it will go faster. At low speed, it has a smaller ratio. This will be small and this is wide, so you get more torque. And when the engine spins faster and the four-wheeler going faster, then this will start expanding and the torque will change. This will get big and this will become small, so this will rotate way less than this rotate, and the four-wheeler will go faster. It's very cool design. I may try to duplicate something similar for a future project. I'll clean this up and reassemble it. Every 3 years I remove the carburetor and the spark plug, and I clean this area over here with carburetor cleaner. I spray a lot of this material inside, and then I'll rotate the engine manually. It will rotate easy because there is no compression after you remove the spark plug. And then I let it soak on the top of the piston for a little bit, and then I'll clean it, spray it with air, and rotate the engine. This will clean the rings, the valves, etc., and it will clean the chamber completely. This is still clean from the last time I done it. I will do it just to show you. It's very important after you do this procedure to change the oil in your engine, just in case this material leak down between the piston and the cylinder wall and just get down and get mixed with the oil. It may damage the engine, so it's very important to flush the engine after you do this procedure. I will rotate the engine until the valve open. If you do similar work, make sure you do it in very well ventilated area. Right there. Be careful, don't rotate it fast and look, it will spray it on your eyes. Make sure you wear eye protection. I close the valve and I'll let it soak inside with this material for a little bit, and then I'll rotate it so it will come down on the cylinder. I apologize, I'm going to shake the four-wheeler to show you there is liquid on the top of the valve. After this material set for about 10 to 15 minutes, most of it will evaporate. I'll keep add little bit, and then I'll rotate the engine, let the top of the piston soak, and this will clean everything inside. As you see, the liquid become cleaner and the valve get cleaner. It's been soaking for a little bit. Unfortunately, the new carburetor, I just discovered now, it's damaged over here. It's been dropped. There's a crack over here in the body. I'm going to try to return this carburetor. The carburetor that I took off, it's about 2 years old. It's aftermarket. It starts surging before I discover the leak in the fuel tank. So I don't know if the problem from the leak or maybe this carburetor is not good. The carburetor that I took off 2 years ago, I took it apart after I installed this carburetor and I cleaned it and I have it as a spare part. I'm going to try to reinstall this one and see how it runs. If it runs okay, I'll leave it alone. If not, then I'll try to get a replacement carburetor for the one that's been damaged during shipping or from the seller. It's actually heavier weight, this one, than the one that I took off. They both aftermarket. I replaced the original about 10 years ago and I installed this one and it ran fine. We'll see, we'll try it out. I kept all the original parts in this box. I removed the plate between the thumb saver and the carburetor. There is maybe an 1/8 inch movement in the thumb saver before the carburetor responds. I'll leave it there. This carburetor used different choke cylinder than the one I took out. I saved the old choke and the spring. I'm going to replace it. Very important tip. When you work on something delicate like this, make sure you turn it with your finger, any type of thread. You turn it at least 3 turns before you apply any wrenches on it. You don't want to cross thread it. This way you will damage it permanently. It's seated all the way just with my finger. Now I'm gonna get a wrench and tighten it just a little bit. This is a plastic, so I don't want to over torque it and break it. The choke operates smoothly. When you buy aftermarket carburetor, they come with a plastic filter. Don't use those, they're dangerous because if they crack and leak fuel on the engine, your four-wheeler may catch on fire. I bought this from the auto store 4 or 5 years ago. The fuel usually come clean to it because the strainer inside the fuel tank will filter all the contaminant. It's a good idea to have a secondary filter like this one. This one is still clean and open. So I'm going to reuse it. The drain hose will connect right here. If you want to store the four-wheeler for a long period of time, you need to drain the fuel. So you lose this screw and the fuel will come out and go to the bottom of the four-wheeler. Before I proceed any further, I'm going to replace the filter, the oil filter, because it's easy to reach while the air filter housing is out of the way. I bought the oil filter and the spark plug off eBay. way cheaper than buy them from the auto store or from the Yamaha dealer. This is the oil I use. I coated the thread of the new spark plug with the grease. The gap is set correctly. Oh, the air filter comes with a spark plug too. I have a special spray for air filter for four-wheeler. I have it at the shipping container, so it's going to have to do without it for now. It's tacky type of fluid to keep dirt and all that stuck to the air filter. I also siliconed a gasket seal over here. The factory one is just a small piece of paper and doesn't seal well. I'll apply a little bit of grease to keep it in place. It's time for the 21mm socket to visit the oil drain plug. It's very important to keep this harness away from the exhaust or it will melt it and cause damage. This over here will connect to the carburetor on this part over here. The original hose used to be longer and it will go through here and will lay down. I found this vacuum hose. It fit perfectly over here. I apologize as my GoPro camera did not capture audio for these 2-minute clips. I've been having audio problem with my two new GoPro cameras and would like your inputs for updating my recording equipment. Any suggestion would be appreciated. I thought to record my voice to explain what I'm doing. I drained the fuel tank and discovered the strainer was actually floating inside the fuel tank. That is why having a fuel filter between the tank and the carburetor is very important to keep your carburetor clean. I removed the leaky shutoff valve and replaced it with a new one. It's a good idea to put some grease between the two mating surfaces. Make sure to keep away any source of ignition, as the fuel and its fume are very flammable and any spark or fire source could lead to explosion. I assembled everything exactly the same way it was before. I cleaned the fuel tank after I drained it. I'm keeping the cleaned fuel tank closed to prevent anything from getting inside of it. The new shutoff valve outlet port is pointing to the front of the four-wheeler, and the one I removed was pointing to the back of the four-wheeler, so I had to use a new fuel line to loop it back to the fuel filter from the shutoff valve. I don't use the cheap fuel lines as they don't last very long. That is why I didn't use the hose that came with the shutoff valve. I always use a good quality reinforced fuel line. The new shutoff valve has a knob exactly how the original was, to make it easy to shut off the fuel without removing the engine cover. I emptied whatever fuel was inside this jug. I double layered this rag and I used it as filter to catch all the contaminant that was inside the jug, and I cleaned the jug, I blew it with air. This was floating inside the tank. When I drained it, it fell off. I'm going to buy more fuel, fill the tank up. There was probably 1 gallon of fuel, so I'll fill it up and then I'll try to run it. No fuel leak from this side. And everything is dry on this side. It will fire right up. I am ready to reassemble the torque converter. It's very important to use high temperature grease. This one over here can handle up to 375 degree Fahrenheit. This over here, the highest temperature grease that I have, and it could handle 540 degree Fahrenheit. There is high temperature in the torque converter due to the friction and all that between the belt and the surfaces, also from the engine. If it get too hot, more than the grease designed for, it will turn to oil and it will slink everywhere. This will contain the grease. There is an O-ring that will go around this one, and this cover will contain the grease. It will slink out. However, when you turn off the four-wheeler, the grease will settle down and it will leak down on the rollers, etc. So I will coat everything with this grease. We just need thin film, and then I'll be ready to assemble it. I cleaned everything with carburetor and choke cleaner. I have some leftover from the carburetor project. These rollers over here, they have some type of plastic and steel ring. I'm going to apply a little bit of grease inside this. And some inside to prevent the steel ring from rusting. The guides over here, they're made of plastic, and there is a steel C shape that's go inside. They will go like this. So make sure if you take it apart and clean it, make sure you put these back in. Each one of them will get one. There is a thin surface area and there is wide surface area. The wide surface area will be toward this side. These guide right in this area over here, or these rails. I marked it before I took it apart. I put a scratch over here and a scratch over here, just in case there is balance issue or something, so it will be perfectly balanced. This O-ring is very important. It will prevent grease from slinging out and get on the belt, and this will cause a friction issue. use two long bolt from the cover. I will compress this, the secondary sheave. The screws will go on the top of the cover. I'm just going to install some screws to try it out and see how it works. I'm going to remove these screws and then install the cover. The longest one, I think it will go here. Yep. Now the only thing left is to install this platform over here. No reason to record that. I built this box a few years ago. What I did, I took 1-inch square tubing and I cut it straight over here, and then I made this one long enough so I could round it over here and over here all the way to the back. And the way I round it, I took the grinder and I slice it at multiple locations, and then I bend it to match this over here and fill it with weld and grind it flat. And then I use this expanded metal. I weld it over here and over here at the bottom. And this being great, I could put my gear over here, drinks, or anything. This being very useful, and it helped a lot, so I don't have to carry anything on my back. I'm going to remove this to access the radiator over here. There is 2 excess bolts over here. What I did, I cut the expanded metal and then I welded this flat washer so this area will be smooth and nothing will get caught in this. If you cut this, it will have sharp edges, so this is how I solved the problem. And you could build similar thing to any type of four-wheeler. This over here for the radiator. I will clean this area and then I will show you where I'm going to drain the coolant for this four-wheeler. I washed it. I'm planning to repaint this box over here. I flushed the coolant about 4 years ago. I am going to disconnect this hose over here, and this over here is the lowest point between the engine and the radiator. When I disconnected it from here, I could drain most of the coolant, and I'm going to collect it in this container. I'm going to replace these hose clamps. I found these 2 old hose clamps in my shop. They will fit perfectly. I'm also going to drain this reservoir. By disconnecting the hose over there at the bottom. After I drain it, then I will reconnect everything, and I'm going to fill everything with the new coolant. I reconnected everything, and I'm ready to fill the radiator and the reservoir with the new coolant. I'm ready to fill it up. It's very important to use pre-diluted antifreeze so you don't have to worry about adding water to it. It will work better if it's mixed with water. So I always buy it already mixed. Very important safety tip. Regardless of what type of antifreeze you drain or you use, it's very harmful. Don't leave it in open container like this. It smells sweet, and I believe it tastes sweet. Animals, birds, or kids, they may drink from it. It's not toxic, it's not gonna harm them right away. I believe it will crystallize in their kidneys, and that's how it kills them. So be careful. After you finish your work, immediately put it in container, old container, and then send it to the nearest recycle center. Don't throw it on your grass or on the street or anywhere. Make sure you put it in container and recycle it. I hit it with the wire brush and I cleaned it with acetone and blew it with air. I have it dried for 24 hours and I'm ready to bolt it in. I'm also going to flush the differential oil or gear oil. For the rear differential, when I built this one over here to be able to hook a trailer to it, I left room over here so I could fill the differential without taking this part off. I have to remove this guard to be able to access the drainer plug and drain the oil. These pictures show how I fabricated the hitch for my four-wheeler a few years ago. I'm using 2-inch ball. It has been great and it was very easy to build. I thought to include these pictures to give you an idea to build your own if you are interested to build similar thing. The differential's gear oil is pretty clean. I flush it every 5 years. I'm not going to flush the brake fluid because I did that last year. I had to replace the seal over there and I split this part, replaced that seal, and then I flushed the brake fluid. It takes the DOT4. I will wait for this to drain for a couple hours and then I'll close the plug and fill both the front and rear with the new gear oil. These footage are from last year when I had to replace the oil seal and the rubber boot as they were leaking. I also flushed the differential oil and the brake fluid. I changed the brake fluid in both reservoirs, the one near the radiator and the one by the handle. Then I bled the brake on all 4 wheels. I am going to use this gear oil to fill both differential boxes. just going to try to see if I could use this here. I don't have to get a funnel. It's full, the oil level all the way to here. It's make a funny sound. I'll wait a little bit, make sure there is no leaks, and then I'll install the guards. The new tires for the four-wheeler show up. Also, I contacted the seller who sold me this carburetor, sent him picture of the damage. He told me I don't have to send this one back, and he sent me new one. I already inspected the new one, it doesn't have any damages. However, I'm not going to replace the carburetor in the four-wheeler because it's running good. I will leave it as a spare part, and in the future, if I have a problem with the carburetor, then I'll change it. These pictures show the rack and the trailer that I built for this four-wheeler. In the next video, I will show how I'm going to restore this four-wheeler seat. I hope this video was informative. I appreciate your subscription and support to this channel. Be safe and thank you for watching.